July 31st, 6 o'clock. I will go ahead and call us to order for, I don't know, I guess it's our first meeting with the new board members, plus our first meeting for 23-24 school year. So welcome, everybody. Let me do some business stuff. Let's do roll call. Richard here, Kelsey
Here.
Merle here, Christine
Here.
Crystal
Here.
Heidi
Here.
and Chair is here, so we have a full quorum. And thanks for everybody joining. If you would join me for next salute. I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Got a welcome for everybody here. I see some new faces. Do you want to introduce some
I
new
would be
faces?
happy to,
Okay.
and and one of the things is, I'm not sure everyone knows everyone in the room. So
Sure,
it might
so we
be
can
a
do
chance- we
both
might be a
sides if
chance,
you want to
to do
introduce.
Both sides, so, but
Some staff
But
members.
absolutely, we have some new folks, and we're really proud to introduce Kimberly Jordan. She's our new principal at the primary school this year, so. And Dr. Stacy Erickson, so she's new principal at North Marion Middle School. There she is. And some of you may or may not know, or know well, or a little bit, David Sheldon, principal at our intermediate school. And Dennis, principal at North Marion High School. His dad was my social dance instructor in college. Cheryl Dyer, our director of special programs. And Desiree Kiesel, who's our director of teaching and learning. And Irma Patton, who has the longest title. Our director of equity, I would say director of equity, inclusion, and title programs. But I think it's equity, diversity, and title programs.
No, equity inclusion.
Is it equity inclusion?
It
Okay,
is, yeah.
very good. Diane had to order 2 cards today. Thank you.
Sorry. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. I'm not going to speak for you, but introduce yourselves to some of our staff members and give us a little bit of background information on yourself. You don't have to get too detailed, but just say hello and who you are and how long you've been with the board.
Yeah, Rich Goddard, North Marion School Board member, and for, I think, 2 years. Yeah. No applause needed.
I'm Kelsey Newkirk, and this is my first meeting here. I got 5 kids, 1 just graduated, I got 3 going into high school, and then I got a toddler at home.
I'm Merle Stutzman, and if I can borrow a phrase, I'll say I was born and ever remained among the humbler walks of life. An elected board member for almost 30 days and active for 3 minutes. And into the challenge.
I'm Christine Carbajal. I have 2 students who have graduated from North Marion, and I have 2 other students who are working through the process. And I guess I'm at 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Crystal Roskasil, I think I've been on the board, I don't know, 5-ish. 6 years. There you go.
Oh, that's one of my 5 sons calling me now. And, I have 5 boys who went through North Marion, K through 12. I myself graduated from North Marion in 1979. But I was gone for a long time and then moved back. And I have a military background and a mom background, and that's about it. I've been on the board since about 2008.
And you may know me or not. I'm Glenn Holm, been chair for where COVID started. I've been on the board since 2017, have 4 kids, 3 have graduated from North Marion, 1 is a senior this year. And I am a 91 graduate of North Marion, so, and a 50-year resident of the same farm, so almost 50 years, so. Yeah, anyway,
Very good.
welcome, everybody. Thanks for the introductions and thanks for.
Thanks, Glenn, and we shouldn't assume, I was thinking that some of our leaders have maybe had some interactions with board members, but you know, the man behind the screen back here, Greg Patton, he's our director of technology, he's the one that keeps us all running and online. And and Diane Lush, you know, who is your secretary, you know, and so just does a fantastic job of organizing us and organizing you and keeping you informed. And the person who's really behind the screen tonight, Linda Murray, our business manager, who really keeps us out of trouble most of the time financially and keeps us on an even keel, so.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to 1C, agenda consideration. If you guys have had a chance to look at it, I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. I have one change on the executive session. I would like to attach a hearing number to that, which would be GR 723-01, so we can track these. That's not even listed on here, but I would like to make that change. So anyway, I did entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented otherwise.
When I open the most current agenda that I have, there's still a error on the document.
Where?
Maybe it didn't upload to mine. Heidi, can I see yours?
You can have 2000.
Yeah.
No, that was fixed last week.
Maybe,
Hit your refresh button.
yeah, I did, but it didn't.
So I'll move that we accept the agenda as presented with the amendment that Chairman did.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Who is second on that? Heidi or Merle? Okay.
This-
Any discussion on the motion?
There's. When I hit the refresh button, it's still showing,
That's not an agenda change though.
well, it's an action item issue.
Well, actually, this is for the old
No,
school year.
no, you're not on the right thing. This spreadsheet. This-
Okay, but. Right here, when I click this one, it's still showing up the wrong one.
No.
Yeah,
Let me see if I can get it loaded by 10 minutes to it.
okay,
Yeah, it looks like it's
If
for
not, I
last
did
school
change
year.
it on, there's nothing different.
Okay.
okay, it's just that document is,
But that's
Yeah.
still not in the agenda.
yeah, well, it's in the action, it is in the agenda.
Any more discussion on the motion?
So I'm questioning the annual procedural business under consent. Board action item A.
Please
Uh,
look at the screen.
Yeah.
This says 23-24. That's what I
And when
have.
I opened it, it was showing the other one, so that's why I was,
Yeah, but this is the official latest one.
okay, so Linda, when I opened it on my computer, Ginger's name was still appearing.
Yeah, I see it.
So I wouldn't want to vote yes on something or vote for something if it's not accurate. That's what I was stipulating.
I'm just saying this is the latest. So if you want, I can open the link if that would be helpful.
Yeah, is yours different than mine?
I don't know what you're looking at. So we can open this, and see.
That,
Oh, yeah, if you open it, you might see it. I'm seeing it.
I don't know if it's gonna open.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my computer.
Okay.
Cause I can't get to it from here.
yeah, do you,
And I will replace that document,
uh-huh,
okay?
Yeah, these are old.
I don't know how that, I apologize. I don't
no,
know.
it, sometimes it's those weird links in there. That's just what I was calling out to be corrected in the agenda.
Okay, so noted, we will have a change on some of the documentation, and it may. If it isn't updated by that point, we will have to just, manually
Manually.
as we go, manually motion, so. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented with that one notation, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, moving on. Board communication, this is still a carryover from last spring, but we would definitely like to acknowledge City of Aurora for $750 that they donated, and also Jan Peel, owner of Home Again Antiques, for $300 for FBLA students to go to the Nationals in Georgia. That is much appreciated. That is a really, really nice gift out of our community, and allowed our students to be able to attend and helped offset some of those costs of living. So we really do appreciate it. And appreciate that continued community support. It's really, really important. Moving on to 2B, OSB Summer Board Convention or Board Conference, August 11th through the 13th. Diane has probably signed you up. If not, you can correspond with her. I believe I'm only going for Saturday, Sunday. But I know some of you guys are attending on Friday as well. So I'm not sure that we can, since we're not staying, it'll just be back and forth. I don't know if you guys, anybody's, carpooling or whatever, but we can certainly correspond about that. But it should be a lot of good information, especially for new board members. There's a ton of information there. And it's a great networking opportunity to kind of, check into our regional representation to the OSB board, as well as just state representation to OSBA board. So I'm not going to go over much on the ODE state education. There's lots of links there that are populated every time we meet. And if anybody feels the need to comment, you're certainly welcome to. Otherwise, I'll move through that. Moving on to number 3, which is our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion on that if everybody has had a chance to go over the documents already.
I have a question on it.
Okay.
Bill, what does it mean declined position on the hiring?
Well, apparently it's a position that was offered and declined, or maybe even accepted once and then
Oh,
declined a little bit
okay.
later.
So does that mean that position is still open? I'm just curious.
Yes. Yes.
Just curious how we're looking going into the, if we still have open positions.
We have open positions and folks are working hard on them right now. For most of them, we have some candidates that we're working with right now or in process.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Make note of that though. Any discussion on that motion? Stan's not here. I'll take a few notes for it. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. We'll do it by acclamation. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries. All right, next up is board action, item number 4, which is our annual procedural business for the 23-24 school year. First item up is to elect chairman. So how this will work, we will accept nominations. Nominations don't necessarily need to close, but I will call for, if there's more nominations to fill that or to be nominated, we will vote. And then we'll move on to the next item. It's an open vote, so I'll probably do it by roll call, depending on how it plays out with who's nominated. So with that, I will open up the position of chairman for nominations.
I'll move nomination of Glenn Holm for chairman school board.
Second.
Are there more nominations? Are there more nominations? Hearing none, I will accept. What's that? That's what I do. I do, I appreciate the nomination. I appreciate the kind words. So, hearing no more nominations, I will open it up one more time. Any other nominations? Given it's only one person, I will do it by acclamation. So all those in favor of Glenn Holm for chairman, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate the confidence and we'll keep working. Next item up is vice chairman. Item number 2, I will go ahead and open it up for nominations.
I'd like to move to nominate Crystal Rostizel.
Any other nominations?
I would nominate Heidi.
Any other nominations? Going once, going twice. I'll go ahead and close the nominations up then. And let's see how we're gonna do this. So I will ask for well, let's take them as they were nominated. A vote in the affirmative for Crystal Ross, so we'll take Crystal first. A vote in the affirmative for Crystal will be to elect her as vice chair. So Richard,
No.
Kelsey,
Yeah.
Merle,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Crystal,
Yes.
Heidi,
No.
and the chair. The chair will vote no. It's not in a,
Yeah, I don't have enough.
however, there's already a majority there, so I think it precludes another vote on Heidi. But I don't know procedurally if I need to hold that vote, but maybe you can, we already have a majority for vice chair. Do we need to hold the vote on the second candidate?
Yeah, you need to go.
We already have a majority though for the first candidate,
Oh,
which was Crystal. So, okay,
document fix.
okay.
Thank you, sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So I would just, at this juncture, Crystal is our new vice chair. I would just like to say a few words about Heidi. If you wanted to. I would like to thank you tremendously for the work you've done. You've been with me as vice chair, I think,
Couple years.
through COVID.
Yeah, definitely.
And, really done some work working on contracts and following up on just all kinds of stuff. We've been through a lot and I really, really do appreciate all the help that you've given me. So,
Well, it's my pleasure.
yeah, so, and for literally more than a decade of
Yeah.
service. If you've been here since.
Well, I'm still here, so. yeah.
Of course, but I'll also, honor that. I mean, this is
Yeah.
the senior member of the board, and she's been here a long time. Part of the reason I work so well is because she has a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge, and if we've never been through a process, I can always go to her and ask, what was it like when you went through this before?
And I say, let me see if I can remember. It's old.
That being said, congratulations, Crystal. Look forward to working with you. And we will move on.
Thank you, Chair. Can I say just a couple words?
Absolutely.
I totally enjoyed collaborating with you
Same.
and always could rely on you. And I knew that you were level-headed and so I really appreciated that. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, same.
Yes, and I'd like to echo that too. Thanks for all your all your effort as vice chair. You've done some heavy lifting on a number of things for the 2 years that I've served, so really appreciate your willingness to kind of put in the extra effort that position requires. And thanks to Crystal for being willing to take that on.
Was somebody keeping track of when you were gone, Diane?
Otherwise.
Okay, because
We
I
did
have,
not get the nominations, so we nominated Crystal.
Richard nominated Crystal.
No,
Or
no,
excuse me,
Christine.
Christine nominated Crystal, Richard nominated Heidi, in that. And then on the motion for the consent agenda,
She did get that.
okay. I was making notes if somebody didn't get it. All right, so we will move on to item number 4A, number 3. Sorry, which one of those script? Do you need a script written or read for that one?
Well, now if you click on there's the document, nope,
Okay,
and the motions are gonna go. You already did elect chairman, you did elect vice chairman.
mhm,
You're gonna determine the amount of bonds, that's a motion itself, number 3. 4, 5, 6 is one motion.
okay.
Do you need a motion for that then?
Yep.
Okay, I move that we determine the amounts of fidelity bonds for persons who shall be bonded principal sum or amount of $100,000 for Dr. Bill Rhodes, Linda Murray, and Dina Fuentes.
Do you need a second on that?
Yes,
I'll second.
have a motion, a second. Is there discussion on that motion? Is that clear enough for you, Diane? Because I know this is legally, procedurally.
Yep, that
Okay.
goes very, very quickly.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, as the motion was presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, moving on to 4, 5, and 6, which could be handled as one. I would entertain a motion on somebody who wants to tackle that.
Okay, I'll move again. That we have the designations and authorizations for 23-24 school year of can I say just as outlined in section D of the document? I'm gonna read it all off. Yeah. Is that also, how far does that go down to? Down to number 8? Like insurance agents record?
It goes down to where it says board meeting. And board meetings. Regular board meetings, work session meetings. Number.
Aren't this, the budget calendar and the business meeting dates separate items, or are they all the same?
They're the same.
Okay.
So. That item D, all of that's listed under it is item D. So you made the motion for 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, so you're saying if we make a motion to accept item D 4, 5, and 6 as presented, that would work?
Which I think was your motion, correct?
Yeah. We're good.
Yeah, well, I don't know, no, it could be 1 through 8. Would that be
Yeah.
okay? Items 1 through 8, which are the chief administrative officer, the business manager, custodian funds, budget officer, school auditor, legal counsel, and insurance agents of record. Is that okay if I read it like that? So I'll leave it there for now.
And I'll second that.
So we have a motion, a second. Is there discussion?
What are we approving here? 1 through 8
Yeah,
of what?
If you click on the link.
Okay.
1 through 8.
Oh. Right. Thank you.
So we're taking these separately. So 1 through 8 is only number 4, correct?
And I'm assuming that the agents insurance, the council, et cetera, are up to date. I just noticed the firm is designated here, not the attorney.
Mhm.
Represents us, at least in some matter.
Mhm.
I'm satisfied with that.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, which is number 4, it's D1, items 1 through 8, correct? That was the
Correct.
motion.
Mhm.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So that motion carries.
Ready to take the next one? We doing these separately?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
so I would move that we adopt the budget calendar for fiscal year 2023-2024 as presented.
2024.
I'm sorry, this is
Yeah, that's good.
correction. The attachment for fiscal year 2024-2025, where the.
Oh, you're right.
Says 2023-2024, so
Yeah.
just want to make sure we're clear on what we're.
It's not 24, 25.
Well,
Well,
That's the
Technically,
budget.
it is.
That's the budget will be developed.
yes,
So it is.
Oh, it's a budget for that.
it's the
Okay.
budget for the upcoming.
Technically, it is.
So that is actually correct,
Yeah.
language as it's stated.
yeah, so I'll just correct my motion. So I move that we adopt the budget calendar for fiscal year 2024-2025 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
All those opposed? That motion carries. And lastly, is establish monthly school board business, meeting dates, time and place.
I'll move that we accept as outlined here, but I have a question with that. We could discuss in our maybe our workshop or our next work session or something. Really evaluate if we really want to continue with the calendar, with this idea of having combined workshops and business meetings. Because it makes for a very long night, and I don't think I'm at my best after 3 hours, and I feel sorry for everybody who's here after 3 hours, and. So I don't know if that's something that we should reevaluate at some point. So with that caveat that we can always change it, we can make a motion and change it anytime in the future, so. For now, I'll accept it.
well, no, I agree. I mean, I hate when we're out of here at like 10:30 at night and they have to double back in the morning. I feel kind of bad.
Yeah,
All right, so making the motion, I need a second on that before we can go anywhere, Ben.
Was that your motion?
yeah.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, so that is a very long motion.
No, you don't, the motion is just,
The motion is,
it's
it's
as follows.
As
I was
follows.
just adding that.
Caveat that it
Yeah.
can be changed at a future date.
that
if
we can,
needed.
yeah, that we, and I would agree, I think, in this discussion part, I think we probably should follow up. We have also talked about reordering, so the business meeting is first and the work session is later. If we continue to have it on the same evening, so that way some of our staff can go home if they're not needed for that work session part. We've chatted about that and, cognizant of the fact that if staff is here, they can't spend time with their families either, so.
It's also easier to table a work session item than a business.
Yeah.
Item if things got late.
If things got late and we couldn't continue, yeah, so with that caveat of, we can look at that, down the road too, so. I don't think I made any better job of that motion anyway. Is there any more discussion? So let me restate, the motion is as presented. We have a motion, a second on that, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So that carries. 4B is OSBA policy rewrite. And we chatted about this a little bit earlier, and then we chatted in an agenda setting meeting about this, so I'll turn it over to you to give a little background and to give the reasoning behind why this might be a good thing to do right now.
Very good. And so hopefully I provided a little bit of background in a memo to you in the agenda. But last year, the board contracted with OSBA to do kind of a policy analysis and review. Many of our policies are almost 30 years old, and many of them are irrelevant and outdated and such. So time for an update. There's a little bit of information there. OSB reviewed 263 policies in the board's policy manual. They looked at about 150 of the ARs as well. They did find that, and importantly, that there were policies or ARs that were missing that are required, there were about 14 of them. So in our rewrite, we would need to make sure that we had required policies and or ARs available. There were highly recommended, the board, the OSBA has policies that are required, highly recommended, conditional, and or optional as categories. And they had 9 policies that they had listed as highly recommended that were missing in our policy manual as well. And then there were 181 ARs for policies that it was recommended they be deleted altogether. And I noted down there, I talked with, at the very bottom note, I talked with Spencer Lewis, who kind of helps to give us some guidance around these things down at the bottom and kind of confirm policies recommended for deletion were because they lack relevance anymore based on changing legislation. They were redundant with other policies, you know, in the manual. They were being addressed in, for instance, bargaining agreements or other contracts that we might have. And there were significant changes in the laws, you know, that made them, again, irrelevant and or not necessary because they were being addressed somewhere else. So that's why, and again, after, you can imagine, after 25 or 30 years, you know, how that could occur. They made some suggestions, you know, for instance, if they're basically saying, if you wanted to do this update yourself, these are some things that we would recommend that you do. And, you know, it's would be pretty time consuming, you know, and pretty, you know, kind of a pretty extensive process, you know, to actually get to that point. And now did the second page of that proposal get in the packet? Okay. So in talking with Spencer, there's a number of different services that OSBA could do to help, you know, with the rewrite and to help do an update. And the proposal that they have and one I'm suggesting that would get us up to speed, get us up to date, and then give us a chance to kind of work with the policies that will be coming forward to us as a result of kind of the new legislation out of this last legislative session, is to let them do what's called a full desk rewrite, where they would take our policy manual and they would take their recommendations to us and they would update our policies, you know, based on their recommendations. You know, I have to even if they could do that even without, you know, giving us the markups, they give them their best, you know, the best thinking for what they know about us and our district, and would give us clean, updated copies to the policies that they're to the policy updates that they're recommending here. They would do that rewrite for us. They would give us those policies. They would give us a chance if we wanted to look through those, see if there was anything significant that we thought we should, you know, that we should look at or not. Otherwise, if we gave them the okay, we'd send it back to OSBA, you know, with an approval and or any, you know, any edits that we might want them to make. And then they would upload it into our policy manual and we would be up to date. So that would get us up to that point and would give us the opportunity then to deal with, you know, the upcoming policies. We get recommendations from OSBA every quarter with legislative updates about policies that need to be updated, reviewed, renewed. And those would be the policies that we could focus on, you know, at that point. Right now, when we get an update, we actually probably have for any given policy, we might have a half a dozen other policies that are out of alignment, you know, because so many of these policies are kind of intersect, you know, and have some pieces that if you change one, you have to change the others. That's true with some of our other contractual agreements that we have, that they've evolved along to where oftentimes our own policies don't align with other contracts and agreements that we have along the line. So this would get us up to speed, kind of get us out of that boat and would give us a chance to move along systematically with current legislation and current changes that are coming up. I'd mentioned when I talked to Glenn and, you know, Heidi talked to Crystal a little bit about that, that it doesn't mean that we couldn't pull, you know, a policy out, you know, and deal with it at any given time, especially if there was an issue we were having with, you know, with a particular item. You know, you can you can choose to update and rework a policy at any point, anytime you want. If you agree to do that as a board.
Are you ready for questions?
Sure. Mhm.
I was wondering, so how would they handle like the bracket choices in the policies? Cause that's one of my concerns. Like, I like the idea of, you know, them deleting the irrelevant ones, doing the review and the revisions, obviously the state and federal law ones. But I'm concerned about the bracketing, because we do oftentimes have a deep debate about bracketing and our choices around that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a choice I think that you're making right now. It's the difference between you making the time somehow to go through all of those markups and make decisions about those, or, you know, kind of consider that when there's an issue with one of those, that might be the time to have that conversation about that policy, because you'd have it could be a markup for every policy that we're discussing, you know, so it could be one of those things that goes on and on and on.
Cause I know sometimes it's just, you know, the language that you're talking about, but then sometimes it's shall versus may.
Mhm.
And I personally don't feel comfortable, turning that responsibility over to the OSBA solely to make all those decisions for our district. And that, in the bracket cases,
Mhm.
if it was like, or if I could look at the list of policies beforehand. And then we could, but, you know, I'm for deleting everything, but if there was a bracketed choice where, you know, we've picked the superintendent over the principal over another role at our place, I don't think that OSBA always knows which way the board would want to.
Mhm.
So that's a few of my concerns, like if they could say, you know, this policy has this bracketing, if we're just changing like, you know, the gender specific references and stuff, I get that, but some of this stuff, I feel like if we don't have a list of policies of what they want,
Mhm.
I personally just don't feel comfortable giving a blanket.
Can I add to that, a question on the same line?
Yeah, go ahead.
To clarify, one thing I want to understand is what is markups and what are bracketing.
Yeah, so OSBA could send you all these policies with a lot of options, you know, a lot of choices, so a bracketed
Okay,
item
So
comes
that's the
through.
bracket.
Yeah, a bracketed item may
Okay.
come through and the language may be, you know, the district shall or the district
Sure.
may, you know, and so those are,
And what about the markups?
markups are
That's
when,
right.
that's part of the markups, but a lot of the markups is when the old policy is there and they just show you all
Striking it
the
out.
language that
Mhm.
They
strike
would
out.
show the strikeout and show the new language.
Right, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'll just add one other comment that being new as I am, I tackled these policies, and so far I might be 5% of the way along, but I can see they're stranglingly voluminous. And I can see there are some that have not been changed since 1994, quite a few, or 1994, yeah. Am I right? Am I that old?
Yeah.
It's been a while, I would say, and I could also see, just in going that far, that there are some redundancies, there's some ambiguities. there's a need to do the work, but I'm inclined to local control to the extent that we can. But I also know I used to prepare my tax returns and I at some point gave it up because it was just beyond me. So there is a place too, but I would further ask, does OSBA charge for this service?
Absolutely.
I would
And
afraid of-
to get any, I think part of the, I think real part of the, it's kind of part of my point, to actually get the guidance that we might need to actually go through that process, we probably would have to have more service from them than this.
I've enjoyed
We-
doing it,
We
but
need,
it's time. It's a
Yeah.
lot of.
yeah, it's extremely time consuming. And, you know, so that's why I'm proposing this. I'm just like you too. I don't like somebody else telling me very much what to do when we have lots of decisions to make. When we're, part of the problem is we're so far behind in some of those
Mhm.
updates and some of those policies that for me, it's just a matter of kind of getting up to speed. So I don't, like I said, I'm good either way, but it would take tremendous amount of time to go through the markups the way the board has been doing that in the past. And I'm not sure, I'm not positive that we would get any further, you know what I mean, further down the line of that. We could, but I'm not positive of that. And I think, we would need more guidance, you know, to mean policy by policy from either our legal or from legal services from the board to, you know, to help us understand why or why not we should, you know, make one of those decisions or the other.
Go ahead, Richard.
Just a couple questions, just to make sure I understand. I'm supportive of the rewrite and the cleanup. I think it's time to do that and it's worthwhile work. I guess I am, wondering, so this would be a review, a desktop rewrite of North Marion School District policy specifically, right? Not like statewide. And they would use our existing policies as a starting point. And then they would maybe delete policies, they may change some language, they may, okay. And then the review.
They have to come, we still have to adopt the rewrite and we have to adopt the deletion of the, you know, you have to approve that.
Yeah, perfect. And then there's a suggestion here that the policy revisions would be reviewed by legal counsel. That would be North Marion School Board Legal Counsel that would be reviewing those changes.
If we made changes, you know, kind of beyond what OSBA's recommendations were, we would want to have it reviewed by legal counsel, because remember, a lot of the rewrite is simply to make sure that our language, you know, matches statutory language and rules that come from the state.
Okay. And so, yeah, so I think I'm supportive of the recommendation to do the desktop rewrite. I guess the only thing that I would ask, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, is that I would want to see all of the red lines that they were made. So if they deleted language, I would want to see that. If they added language, I want to see that. If they deleted a policy, I want to see, you know, sort of policy deleted, you know, just so that we understand
Yeah,
the changes that were made. And I think that'd be particularly helpful for those of us, and I'm speaking for myself, that may not be familiar with all of the policies that we have. So rather than just sort of getting handed a catalog of, hey, here's our new recommended policies, I'd prefer to sort of see how they modified our existing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That may have more expense, you know what I mean, than the other proposal, but I mean, it's reasonable. We can look at that.
Go ahead, Kelsey.
I too was going over the policies and there's a ton. Kind of overwhelming, but is there like a deadline for when we need to do this, or?
Probably.
I mean, is it 30 years ago?
You know, the bottom line is those are policies that have been adopted by the board, and they may not, you know, they may not actually reflect current legislation. They may not have language that we have in our bargaining agreement. You know, I mean, there may be discrepancies that we have, and
What is the cost for them to do that?
there are a variety of costs. I think just the desk rewrite, you know, a clean desk rewrite will probably be about $78,000. The getting the services, that's without any services, guidance services, kind of sit down with us and talk through services from OSBA. If we have them actually come in and talk us through the rewrite after they've done it, which is a service they have, but that probably be 12, 15, it could be even more. I know they're at July 1st, their prices were going up. They didn't give me the total new prices after July 1st, but
You mean 12 or 13,000 dollars?
yeah, yeah.
So the first figure was just that we're gonna delete, we're gonna do what we recommend. There you go, essentially,
Right.
Hand it back to you, yeah.
hand it back to you. So no markings, no for us to be able to decipher what was done.
We,
Right?
I mean, we can get that. It's just part of the question I think you need to ask each other is what would you do with that? You know what I mean?
Because of-
You know what I mean? Once, if you have that, you know what I mean?
Well, I think if it would come into question in the future, then we could pull our prior policy and compare the two.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what you too, it helped sort of, I think, at least for me, you know, in all of the agreements that I've worked on with legal
Mhm.
folks, you know, going through the red lines just helped provide a better context and understanding for what the final version looks like and how you got there.
I'm
And
with you.
that's just my way of.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
Not everybody agrees.
I agree. I guess as a contractor, I would never just take it back and not look at my red lines and just say, execute it, off we go. So it seems like to have some kind of.
And
way
on
to-
balance, there are some that have been updated.
Mhm.
More
Yeah.
than one. There are some.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I do that work frequently.
I think from, from my standpoint as chair, the less ambiguity, the less gray area that we have.
Yeah.
The easier for it, for it is to govern as a governing board and stay within your policies. And, be empowered with what your policies empower. So getting everything to a snapshot in time where, our ORS references are accurate, factual, and doesn't leave us open to interpretation that we may or may not like. That would be my reason for wanting to go forward. And I would agree. I think, I would want to see before and after in a way that, kind of tells us, where we come from, where we're going to.
Well, and then in that also, if there was a word change like principal versus superintendent, like we've seen in the past, if we decide like we would rather the superintendent make the decision, then we could pull out that policy for future and say, we would like it to be superintendent. Whereas if you just have a blank, this is what we recommend and this is how it is.
Yeah, I think I'd be consultative about some of those types of things, but I'll go back to Spencer and kind of say, hey, what would it take for us to get clean and the markup? If that's what the board.
So do you want to bring us back the proposal or do you want to motion to move forward? Go ahead, Heidi, sorry.
The thing is, we have spent sometimes in the past 3 board meetings, 3 months on 2 or 3 policies, going back and over this, which is important work. That's what we do. I mean, we do policy on the board and I get that. But just the volume you're looking at here, you're looking at 153 policies to be reviewed and revised. It's hard for us to get through like 25 a year, that's a lot of work. I mean, when you're reading these policies and really studying them and do the adequate work, it's hard. And so I'm not saying I don't know what the answer is right now. You had mentioned maybe forming a committee even of board members that would maybe, did you say something about that at some point?
So, and we can talk about this, I don't know, I mean, some of that might be outside this particular conversation, right now, but one model that I've used in other districts is that you had a couple of board liaisons, and we would take those markups, everybody see the markups that come from OSBA, but you would designate a couple of liaisons, and we would sit down and actually talk through the markups, outside of a board meeting, and then we would bring our recommendations and draft to the board in the cleaner copies, so that the full board wouldn't necessarily be quite so involved in kind of discussion and debate. You'd have a couple representatives thinking about that.
It occurs to me that OSBA has reviewed this already. They've done considerable work on it already. they have identified 181 policies that they would say, let's just put those in the trash. That we could agree to do that. That'd be a pretty good first step, and the percentages would change substantially.
I
I
think
would
we
be
have,
willing
we have
to do
to,
that.
I think that would be under the condition that the other policies were updated. Cause, you know, they would be deleted and then you'd have other policies and updated policies.
Yeah, we may have to.
Then we would
backfill
have to
with-
consider whether we were up to dividing and conquering the others or not. With their help or without.
So would it be, I'm just asking, but would it be acceptable if we had a discussion on this? And are you asking for action on this, I guess, is what I need to ask?
The board could take action. I mean,
Like,
it's-
could we do?
I'm
like-
sharing what my recommendation would be, but
Okay.
you know what I mean, but you know.
Like, so if we said that, we support this, if we can have markups, is that like if we could have a copy of the markups, would that be something that we could take action on? Would anybody be interested in that sort of thing?
All right, why don't you let me, how about if I have some conversation with Spencer and see what they can do, and then, we have another meeting this month, so I'll bring a more kind of fleshed out proposal.
Yeah, really, I was just amazed when we saw this on the agenda, because no one had put me up to this. I just decided if I'm going to sit on this board, I better know what it's about. Reading in here, superintendent has it on the agenda.
You read your mind.
I'm pretty impressed.
So do you or do you not want, and are you seeking an action item from?
I think what I'm
with
hearing you
markups?
tell me is kind of go back and see if, what I can bring back, might be a little more, palatable by the board, and I'll bring that back at our next meeting.
Okay,
I mean, I would, since this is on the agenda for board action, I'd be inclined to, make a motion to proceed with the board, with the desktop rewrite, provided that we could see the red lines, if that's
well,
within the scope of.
yeah, I'll just second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I mean, yeah, I'm good.
Let me restate your motion, or you restate it to me. You would be in favor of spending the money to have the rewrite done, so long as it included markups as to what the changes were when they hand us back a copy. Is that accurate?
And I will second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Maybe I should just say I'm going to vote against it because I'd rather wait and think about it further, but I don't think it's an unreasonable motion.
There would be an opportunity to look at the markups, right? I mean.
Oh, totally. Like,
Yeah.
and nothing will be,
We still have to.
it has to
vote
come back to us and
Mhm.
has to be
On it.
pretty fine tooth comb before we would make any of this actual policy.
You actually
So
have,
this is
yeah, you
not,
have to adopt. it.
yeah, this is not making whatever they come back with this policy.
No,
to be
you have
clear,
to
this
go
is-
through the policy.
Yeah, we would have to vote that in, and we would have to vote in the removal of the policies that they're recommending that we remove. So we're not even close to that process of actually changing the policies. We're at a point where, we would like a substantive enough rewrite that would bring our policies up to date, I think is probably, so, if that's accurate. So,
Yeah, I would just add to that we still have to vote in the policies that they provide us that are rewritten. Correct?
Mhm.
So then you'll still get a list
Mhm.
of them.
And as a point of order, this is not going to keep us from having policy updates on a regular basis.
Right.
The legislature is providing us stuff, OD is providing us stuff on a continuous basis. There is still gonna be policy updates on things as they come to us. So this is not going to eliminate our need to look at policy on a fairly regular basis. That's.
No lack of policy, no
Yeah.
lack of policy update.
Any other discussion on the motion? We can do that by acclamation, I guess. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Alrighty, that motion carries. All right, we are down to superintendent district operations report. I'm following, right? Yep. Second.
And, oh, thank you. Let's see, who's driving today? Linda. Thank you, Linda. So, just, to let the board know, I just really asked to, have an opportunity just to address the board, give a small update, but just get a sense of, what I will do, a monthly update, report at our board meetings. Oftentimes, I might even call it a legislative update, because oftentimes that's what we're tracking, and so there's just a little bit of information that we might have about upcoming changes in legislation that we need to be aware of. But also try to let folks know how things are moving along. This is where I probably would also give some background around some of your strategic planning initiatives and progress we're making towards those types of things as well. So I really wanted to share some of the work that your staff's been doing over the course of the last several weeks. Actually, we started last spring getting together and doing a little foreshadowing of how we might be launching into a new year. We've talked about this notion of, you may recognize this language of cultivating learning and lifelong growth as a language, snipped from our mission statement and our strategic plan. We've actually said we're going to lead into this year with purpose and possibility. And purpose can be really broad, all the way from kind of getting reconnected with why the heck are we here? Why did I want to be a board member? You know what I mean? What compels me? What is it I'm trying to influence? To, what's the purpose behind this lesson in the classroom? What's the target? What is happening? So this notion of purpose and this intention becomes a habit of mind for us, as well as thinking about possibility. And, we are in an environment that where we're faced with challenges and in essence, problems to solve, problems in a good way to solve, keeps our brains going. And for us to be able to think about those challenges, to think about those things as possibilities, as opportunities, for us to be a strength-based, opportunity-based thinking organization and a culture. So, really looking for what's right, what our strengths are, how can we build on, the wonderful people, the wonderful children, the wonderful community that we have, and the leadership to move forward to the next place. And it's the most fun thing to do, is to actually, take on challenges, and move forward, to build some community around common goals and move forward with that, and accomplish things that maybe we didn't think we could accomplish before. So purpose and possibility for us, and I probably could have had you slide up to the next slide, Linda, but you can do that now. Getting really connected with our mission statement, and that's what we're thinking about as leadership. How are we going to make sure that everyone feels a part of the work towards the mission in the school district? And we've been looking for some of those opportunities, some of those examples. What you'll notice are photographs and those types of things are things that for us kind of help reflect the mission in motion, in the school district. Go ahead, Linda. And again, trying to capture, those moments of leadership, those moments of, when we have achieved great things. I love some of the pictures of some of you were in, during graduation and getting an opportunity to celebrate those things and those strengths that we have in the district. Okay, Linda, go ahead. We also think about visioning, and what are those things that we can show that looks like the vision of what we anticipated when we developed our strategic plan. And so looking for notions of what's right, where are examples of our community being engaged and unified, the FBLA contribution, you know what I mean? Talking about those opportunities that our community has actually really engaged Some of the great stories that we had, you know, with GK supporting the high school welding program in class and some of those things. You know, what are those examples of the mission in motion and the vision actually in place? And at the bottom of that last slide was also this notion of building a culture of warm demand. And many of you remember us talking about that notion of warm demand last year. And the notion of a warm demander, you know what I mean, is a leader, a coach, a teacher, you know, someone who is able to have the kind of relationship and be able to show the personal regard and caring for a person in a way that that person is willing to knock down walls for them. And we're trying to build this culture, you know, of supporting each other, being accountable to each other, wanting to do well for each other, because we have relationships, we have common goals, and we want to do well for each other, and especially, you know, for the children in our schools. So we're talking a lot about what that looks like. What are the skills and dispositions, you know, that allow us to be warm demanders, not just demanders. So, thanks, Linda. We'll go to the next one. The purpose of our work over the course of the last few weeks was really to think about leadership development that would support us in moving that mission forward and moving our strategic plan forward. You know, some of the photographs you see now are kind of thoughtful, you know, put real thinking and work together. That's that your leaders have been involved in over the course of, again, the last couple of weeks. And we know that leadership development, and we particularly focus on the development of the principal as an instructional leader. We know that leadership development is second only to those interactions that kids and teachers are having to be able to move student performance and achievement forward. So it's really important for us to develop our leaders, you know, our building leaders and their instructional leaders in their building. Okay, Linda. So we've been spending some time over the course of the last several days, really thinking hard, working hard together. We've been building our learning community as leaders. You can kind of see the environment that we've been working in, you know, lots of poster paper, lots of thinking, getting out there.
Yeah, it looks like it.
No, we have not gone home. We haven't changed our clothes for a week. So we've been building our community, getting to know each other. You know, we need a safe community, you know, in order for us to grow and learn. You know, we have to be safe with each other. We have to be able to give each other feedback that's helpful in moving us forward. Okay, Linda. So we've been building that community. We've ultimately gone back and reflected on our strategic goals, strategies that we had been working on last year, and those indicators of progress that we had before. We're learning a lot more about from Cheryl, what's her good side and what photo best represents her best thing.
Refining that.
But really kind of going back in and see, okay, where were we, how we been reflecting and making sure that we are really, you know, back into the strategic plan that's guiding our work. And then ultimately, okay, Linda. Thank you. Ultimately then, and looking at the evidence that we have of that progress and thinking about now, what's the next iteration? What are our next steps? And continuing to be more evidence-driven, data-driven, if you will, but we talked about being evidence-driven about the decisions we make and the actions we take. And as we are moving forward, tomorrow will be a day of going even much deeper into where we've been, where we are, you know, what results we have, and what we feel like we need to work with our staff and kids and community and moving forward. Aligned to those strategic goals and indicators. So that has been the work over the past few days, and folks have actually really engaged in it. And I want to share that a lot of the work we're doing together, is really about getting to know each other in ways that we can work safely as a professional learning community with each other. You're okay with the warm demand, Linda? And what we know is the more empathy we have for each other, the more likely we're not gonna have assumptions, our biases are gonna get broken down, when we know each other well. And that's a nested idea. We want to know each other well. We can work together, support each other well. I've shared with staff that I've been meeting with individual board members, same idea. I want to know, what your hopes and dreams are and, where you're from so that, so I can do well for you as a superintendent. And we're trying to put some practices in place where, we're able to build empathy, and get to know each other. And we're trying to kind of build these nested opportunities in so that actually translates into how we're interacting with our students as well. One of the things that's struck staff over the course of time with some practices and some tools was an example of what was called a Dear Teacher letter with something that we saw at a mathematics workshop. And it was an example of a school district who was working with lots of newcomer students or students coming new to the school district. Many of them maybe speaking different languages, or languages other than English. And in essence, the entry for them was to sit down with someone who spoke their language or knew a little bit about them, could connect with them, and help them write what was called a Dear Teacher letter. And it was Dear Teacher, and it was basically full of things that they wanted their teacher to know about them. Where they were from, what they'd been through, what school was like for them before, kind of what they like to do, their favorite subjects. But it was just an opportunity where you can imagine a teacher with a student who may be from an unfamiliar culture or speaks an unfamiliar language, may not be able to know those things without, some, a little bit of extra special work and guidance along those lines. And the notion was so that there could be that personal regard right off the bat to get to know them. So their interactions could reflect personal regard, even though there may be other, it may take them a while to, connect as far as their languages or their cultures, and they're continuing to learn about each other. So, so last week, staff was thinking about this, and they actually did a Dear Supervisor letter. So last week, everyone kind of practiced, this whole notion. And we have a Dear Teacher model, but we have a Dear Supervisor too. Just kind of wondering, well, what if, some of your teachers, maybe wanted to write a Dear Supervisor or Dear Principal letter to you. And so they practiced that, and they wrote a Dear Supervisor letter. I wrote a Dear Supervisor too. And I was thinking about the board, but I was, kind of thinking that everybody is my boss now. So, you know what I mean? Kind of that whole notion of, of that and practicing, that as staff that, you feel kind of vulnerable, when you're kind of sharing certain things, with certain people. And but again, trying to find ways to break that down. So Irma was presenting today, and she was, kind of bringing us up to speed, and she said that was really impactful. In fact, she has a Dear Teacher letter from a student that she keeps on her wall in her office because it was so impactful for her. And she brought the staff today, she said, hey, how about this? I have a Dear School Board member template. And so staff today actually took time to write a Dear School Board member letter. And then they said, do we have to give it to me? And I said, oh, you don't have to, you know what I mean? You don't have to try to make it safe and all of those kinds of things. But we do have a board meeting tonight, and if you wanted, and so And so the coalition of the willing, you know, kind of got going and then, you know, the lead followers, you know, kind of came forward as well. So what I have for the board, I have for each of you a stack of your school board member letters from your leadership team. And so I'll make sure that you have those tonight. But again, it's just an example of some of the efforts that we want to make, you know, to really bring this notion of warm demand, of knowing each other, of being able to show personal regard and make those kinds of connections with each other while we're doing this really hard work together.
Appreciate that.
So-
I hope I can interject.
So, and I think that was the end. Linda, I think that was my last slide. There's one more slide maybe that just said, yeah, so this is my letter to. And so we'll have your school board letters. Thank you, and thanks Dad for planning with that. At the end.
Do we have a homework assignment?
I know, right?
Hey, we're just, you know, putting the models out there.
I want to thank you. I'm glad you said you don't have to, but you get to. Say to all of you, you know, this is the last opportunity you can do that, and we have no opportunity to take it personally.
All right, well, thank you, much appreciated. On this list that we have going here, is there anybody who was going to engage tonight on that?
Like the ELD textbook.
Yeah, the text
No,
about-
no.
Those are all just,
No,
sort of-
yeah.
those are all things.
Yeah, could be,
We're
yeah,
looking forward to
yeah,
moving
no,
forward on.
that's
Okay,
it, yeah.
okay. Alrighty, well, that actually takes us to the end of the business part of it. You guys need a break between now and the work session?
Are we gonna do the hearing between the board work session?
No,
No?
no.
No, actually, I got that wrong. Because we have to clear people out.
It's after the adjournment of this
Yeah,
entire meeting, it's the agenda there already.
I just didn't know. I heard different thing. I wasn't clear on how we're doing it.
okay, so let's go ahead and gavel down on the business part of it. And we'll move right into the work session topics, which are boardsmanship. I don't know if you want to say a few words. Diane provided us with some stuff. And I don't know if you want to talk about board operating agreements and our agreements with you. I'm not sure, this is not really an actionable item tonight, but more of a gather some information,
Yeah,
find out how the board wants to operate. And the agreements that we have between you and ourselves as to how you're going to give each other professional courtesy, how we're gonna operate, sort of the guidelines then, so.
yeah, and I don't, you know, this doesn't necessarily have to, you know, be a, you know, kind of an in-depth conversation, but Diane has been doing a great job of putting materials together to support really excellence in boardsmanship. You know, and, you know, that's what we're all assuming, that everyone wants to be an awesome board member. And so kind of understanding what great boardsmanship looks like is an important part of that. What it looks like to have a great board meeting and show that kind of leadership that we want to show. Great decision making, but the boardsmanship materials, you know, are really, there's some of those things that you may have had it before, but every year's, you've had a whole bunch of new experiences before. So when you look at it again, it's new. So I'll highly encourage you. Diane's kind of put a little packet together for you with probably the most pertinent materials around boardsmanship, public meetings, executive sessions, and some of those types of things that are important. And the operating agreements, you know, really, and Glenn mentioned operating agreements between the superintendent and the board, but there are also important operating agreements among, you know, between board members about how you are going to operate, how to communicate, how you are gonna interact with each other around certain things as well. And there are examples, Diane has put the last year's board superintendent operating agreements, in your packet and in your materials. And there are we put some examples from other school districts in, just so, it didn't look like this was like something only North Marion School District was doing. It's pretty standard, for boards and superintendents, to have operating agreements. And I think some of these are fairly simple, and even if we just kind of follow, follows codes of conduct, and ethics for a superintendent, and boards kind of follow codes of conduct and ethics and good boardsmanship, then operating agreements can be pretty simple. And don't have to be really complex. Sometimes boards and superintendents, have to spend years trying to get them sorted out if they're having a bad, getting along with each other and things like that. So, I mean, I think, you could just consider this kind of here are these materials, here's the first read, here's where things are, and, we can come back to that at a retreat or at another board meeting or another opportunity.
That give everybody enough direction on homework as to where we'd like to go. I have a couple of things on item 7. I would like to get, so normally we hold a board retreat, sometime either end of August, 1st of September, middle September. So we have done a couple of fashions. We've done a Friday evening, Saturday morning, or we've done like a Saturday all day. Not all day, but a good chunk of the day. We actually talked about just meeting here at the media center. Is that correct, in the high school? Just got around, yeah, because that would be central. It would be easy for everybody to get to. And as long as it's available, I'm not sure what you guys have going in September on the weekends. Probably homecoming. If we had to work around homecoming, that may be the only thing.
That'd be the only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your homecoming in September this year, or?
It's right at the very end of September.
Okay.
October 6th of October.
October 6th.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's that first weekend, so, I would like to get it in prior to that, so maybe. Between myself and Crystal, we'll reach out and try and throw some dates out when that might happen. But does anybody have any direction, whether you'd rather do like a Friday evening and a Saturday morning, or whether you'd rather just try and do it all in one day?
It only depends on the dates, just like the week of the 11th, and I'm out of state for work
Sure.
through that, like the 16th, so,
Okay,
but otherwise, yeah.
so
Whatever.
let me see if I'm hearing you right, so the weekend of the 16th, is that what you're saying is a no-go?
For me,
Okay, okay,
yeah.
I think that's a no-go for me
September.
too, I think I'm actually gonna be gone hunting maybe that weekend, so, yeah.
The last, since the homecoming is the 6th, that following Saturday, the building is gonna be decorated.
Okay, so that'll
The
be,
previous bill.
so that would be like the weekend of the 28th, 27th, something like that, okay. I think there's a weekend in between there, though.
Yeah, there's the 22nd is a Friday night and the 23rd is a Saturday.
Okay. Does anybody have any hard nose to the 22nd, 23rd?
I do.
You do. Okay. All right, well,
Forgiven.
let's throw a couple of dates around and we will get back to you on that, so we can keep moving along with the meeting, so. I think that's the only thing I really have. Did you have anything more, Bill, you needed to add in here? Okay, all right, it is 7:19, so I will close the work session down. Actually, we'll adjourn and then we'll move to executive session. But that will be just the board members and the pertinent parties to that, so do you want me to read that statement when we come back?
I would say we're going to adjourn into executive session per and say no.
Okay. All right, so we are going to 7:19. We will adjourn into executive session. We will now enter it into executive session for ORS 192.660, section 2, subsection B, to consider the dismissal, disciplining of, or hear complaints, charges brought against a public officer. Is this the right one? Okay. Employee, staff member, individual agent who does not request an open hearing specifically to hear, unanimous appeal. Denial of a grievance, article 27.5-3, the board will review all pertinent data and render a written decision to the employee grievant with a copy of the association within 20 working school days following the board meeting at which the hearing will take place. We will be taking no action on this matter tonight. At the end of the executive session, the board chair will adjourn. I would just remind board members that the contents of executive session need to stay germane to what we're discussing, not other board business, so let's give ourselves like 10 minutes and then I'll try to do that if you need to.